I'm Uncle Bonehead, and this is.
I'm Cryptocracy coming at you live.
We'll never
Well,
get this right. Well, today we're talking about a Fundamental Labs Substack article called Web3 Social, a booming space with an identity crisis. There's a lot to unpack in this article, so this is going to take a while.
it's a great article.
Yes.
I'm really glad that you sent me the link. There's some things in here I really, really like, and then just a few things that I'd like to respond to regarding the article. And of course, as you know, I write about Web3 social, crypto social. I've got a book on it, and I'm coming out with my second book. So this is right up my alley.
Nice. I can't wait for the second book, by the way.
Coming at you soon. Coming at you soon.
Nice. I wish I was a wordsmith like you, because I can't do it. You write about Web3 and I write on Web3. So,
Yeah, I think you need both. Anyways, it's a great article. I really like the article. It's got some great stuff in there, and I can't wait to unpack it.
Yep. I will note real quick. They start off with the summary, which is kind of what you don't usually see. So when you're reading this, just know that that's up front. Because when I first saw the summary, I'm like, wow, that was like the shortest article I ever read. And then I kept reading and kept reading and kept reading.
Yeah, the summary itself is kind of long, but it does a good job of summarizing what the article is all about.
Yep.
And I just want to say right up front, I think this is the first point he makes is he talks about Web3 social and how it's different than Web2, and makes the comment about Web2 social networking platforms and the issues that they cause regarding data and security breaches, manipulation of public opinion, and false information. And I just want to address that point about false information. There is, I think, a misunderstanding in social media across the board, whether Web 2 or Web 3, that information must be true, and if it's not true, then somebody has to fix that. But here's my response: anywhere there's a freedom of expression, there's going to be misinformation. Somebody's going to get something wrong, either intentionally or unintentionally. A lot of times it's unintentional. Many times it is very intentional. And what I like about Web3 is it doesn't try to correct misinformation at the platform level. That's what Web2 does. And so if you're in Web2, you use a command and control type approach to, we've got to, this is misinformation. We got to put up a notice saying this is not correct, or we have to ban the user or whatever. That's not really the platform's job, in my opinion.
Nope. And
what I like about Web3 is the community is the police for false information.
That's
the
right.
individual does their own policing.
Yeah, Web 2 is like it's like they've always got to appoint the benevolent dictator to decide what is right and what's wrong. Web 3
yeah, but
the community.
They're not always very benevolent.
No, they're not.
I
was trying to be nice. But Web 3 it's the community that decides what's right and wrong.
Yeah, and it's done at the individual level. So it's not, there can be cabals, where, we've seen this on Hive and Steemit, where a group of whales decide that, well, they don't like a certain individual, so they all go down. So you have these downvote wars. And, I don't like to see that.
I don't like
particularly when you have a group of whales that decide they're going to gang up on smaller fish in the sea. I don't like to see that. But it's not the platform that is saying, we don't like what you're saying, so we're going to shadow ban you, or we're going to make life hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's individuals making individual choices.
Right. Exactly. In the summary, he starts off with the existing Web2 social networking platforms cause issues like data and security breaches, which, we've covered that several times over the last couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Digital assets created according to the interoperable standards on public blockchains are portable and transferable, so user history is not stuck on a particular platform. One thing he doesn't say that I always found rather strange on Web2 social is that you don't own the stuff that you post on Web2.
Yeah, right.
If you take a picture of your family or your friends and you post it on Facebook, you no longer own that. Facebook has the right to use that in anything they want.
Right.
And
Well, you own
don't
you
get
own the
paid for it.
original. Yeah, you own the original photograph, of course,
Mhm.
but you don't own the facsimile of that photograph that you uploaded to the platform. The
Right.
platform actually owns all of your user-generated content. And if you read their terms of service, that's exactly how it reads, actually.
Yeah. That was the one thing that surprised me the most from the beginning was, that as far as I understood the way pictures and stuff was considered in the United States was that you owned your rights to your pictures and nobody could use it in advertising or anything without paying. But that's not true. That
Yeah,
was the hardest thing that I've ever
yeah,
had to get to.
yeah. And if you analyze, really, if you analyze the history of social media and how it developed, um, uh, and you can understand really where that came about from the platform's perspective. Because prior to 1997, there wasn't anything really called social media.
Mhm.
And I go through the history of this in my book, Crypto Social. And 6 Degrees launched in 1997, and because of that, because of 6 Degrees, they really opened the door to user-generated content. 6 Degrees and a platform called GeoCities, which people could,
Geocities.
yeah, people could build a website for free, right?
Mhm.
And go up on there, but it was user-generated content, and well, the platform is providing a service to people who couldn't do that on their own. If they could build a website, they wouldn't be at GeoCities, right? So
Right.
they're at GeoCities because they want a website, but they don't have the skills or the knowledge or whatever, or maybe not the time even to build a website. Um, so the service is providing a service, but in doing that, they've got to monetize their business model. And back then, there just wasn't any way to do that apart from advertising. And so
Mhm.
the user became the product. And over time, that was the platform model. So it's the platform built a service for users to come and do whatever for free. Whether it's dating or finding friends or taking pictures of their cat and uploading it. Whatever whatever it was, they provided a way for people to network with each other, and by doing that, they established a business model, and that business model was advertising. So it made sense for the time because we just didn't have the tools to do it any other way.
Right.
Uh, but now, over time, 20 years later, we've got these big, massive companies that are making billions of dollars off of user-generated content, which they have put in their terms of service. If you want to use our platform, you have to give us the right to use it. And so now we just have these huge behemoths that own the content, own the data, and own you.
Yep. And we don't get
uh,
paid nothing.
Yeah, and you don't get paid anything for your content.
So now
Um,
we've got
so
these.
there's a historical precedent for it, but it's created this huge, massive ecosystem of platforms that are using people to enrich themselves.
Nice. I made a post on Twitter the other day about I was listening to a podcast. It was an hour-long podcast, and it was so packed full of ads that there was about 15 or 20 minutes of content out of the hour.
Oh wow!
So the advertising model is so dumb. It's to the point where it's not practical for people to make any kind of money or get paid for their content.
Yeah,
So that's
and it's
where,
a holdover. It's a
right.
holdover, really, from the 20th century before the internet,
Yeah.
because you look at the business models of mass communications in the 20th century, radio, television, magazines, newspapers, all of them were advertiser based.
Yep.
And, TV was free if you were a viewer. You sit and watch TV, it was free. But you had to sit through the advertising. They had their sponsors. Radio, you could listen to the radio for free. A newspaper might have cost you a quarter or 50 cents there toward the end, or maybe a dollar if it was like USA Today or whatever.
Right.
But that was a small, that's chump change to the publisher because their real income stream was from the advertisers.
And then
And yeah,
with Web3, we've got the opportunity for the individual to be compensated for their content, unlike without advertising. So
right.
why don't people see this? This is beyond me. But
I
anyways,
think I think there are a lot of people that don't really understand how Bitcoin really changed the game. Um, Bitcoin really introduced a new technology, the distributed ledger, the blockchain, that kind of makes this even possible. Before that, the only revenue sharing model that existed on the internet was still advertising based. And so, if you were a content creator and you went to a platform, there were several of them that tried this model of revenue sharing, but they shared revenue they were getting from advertisers, and I've never seen one of those models work. Never seen any of them where the content creators actually made any kind of money. But with
yep.
blockchain technology, that possibility exists, and people are making an income actually on Hive, for instance. One of
That,
the I was reading one of the articles this morning from one of the platform users there on Hive, and he was talking about how much income people on Medium make. The top producers are making like $1,000 a month, but he said he was making twice that. After 5 years of being on Hive.
wow. I don't doubt that. I, the thing is, people don't really see when it comes to Web3. They look at the cryptocurrency aspect of it, and they're like, it's not real money. And they gotta think they gotta get to the understanding that it is real money. You might have to transfer it into something else to make it into your preferred currency, whether that
Hmm.
be the USD or whether it you know be
Yeah, the Swiss
rubles or
franc or
yeah.
yeah, whatever. Yeah,
It's you'll have to convert it, and by the time it gets through all the conversions, it's probably not going to be worth a whole lot to what you think it should be. But that just means you should probably try to make more of it.
yeah, and it's not necessarily even about making money from your content. That's one
Mhm.
benefit, but there's also the benefit of growing that income into something even larger.
Yep.
And, like one of the things I appreciate about Hive, which we talked about last week, and that episode will go live tomorrow, is, the Hive savings account. So you can put your Hive-backed dollars into a savings account that earns 20% interest. You're not going to get that at a bank anywhere. And so why not take $1,000 that you have sitting in your savings account in your bank, which is earning you less than 1% probably, and move that into Hive where you can get 20% on that income and on that money, which you're not going to get anywhere else. Even some of the best investment accounts aren't going to pay you that.
Right. But then another thing that people don't think about is if you're, you don't have to just do this on one platform or one,
Right.
Like Hive. You can do this on a bunch of them. And
exactly right.
You're getting, if you do 10 of them, you're getting 10 times. That's not just once. That's 10 times.
Right. Yeah. So, and I follow a couple of people who share monthly, share their income from crypto. And that includes the crypto social platforms, like Hive and Publish, 0x, and several others. Scott Cunningham and John Wigghaupt both share their monthly. They share their income, and they make in the hundreds, or sometimes in the thousands of dollars a month from crypto social, from staking and other crypto investments. And I share mine once a month in my newsletter, Cryptocracy at Substack. And usually, well, I'm over $100 now in some months, where
nice.
I don't publish on all of the same platforms that like Scott Cunningham, for instance, publishes on. He publishes on like probably like 50 or 60 of them. I just do like 10, 8 to 10. And I'm making $100 a month.
Right. I like Scott. Scott's cool. I've talked to him a couple of times, and he's offered to come on my shows before, but my show's never had a spot for him.
You didn't make room for Scott Cunningham?
Well, no, it's not the content. Didn't wasn't that kind of content. It's loud and proud. But yeah.
Gotcha. No, gotcha. Yeah, different format.
Yeah. Could you imagine, somebody like, Taskmaster or Scott Cunningham on Loud and Proud talking about,
No.
Sidetrack.
Yeah. So one of the cool things, so we were talking about income and all of that. One of the things that the author of this article says is, and I don't remember his name. So, what's the name of the Substack? It's Fundamental Lab. Fundamental Labs. So I'll just call him Fundamental Labs. One of the things he says that I completely agree with is he says a core philosophical principle of Web3 is that there are more ways to provide value to an ecosystem than through capital. Value should be able to be earned and not just purchased. And so he's taking a poke here at the venture capital model. And so, in traditional business, an entrepreneur gets an idea, he goes to a group of investors, presents his idea, gets the capital, say one or a half a dozen or however many different investors throw their money into the pool, say, yeah, we'll back you. Then he goes and builds the product and finds customers. And on Web2 social, what a lot of people don't realize is the content creators on these platforms, they are the product. The customers are the advertisers. And so if you're on Web2 and you're creating content for, whatever it might be, then you need to realize you're the product. Your data is the product. And so you are actually offered to the real customers, the advertisers, as the product. Your data, your information, access to you and it's the same business model we talked about earlier, which has existed throughout the 20th century. So that's just something that I thought was pretty good. Pretty good. He brought out, and I completely agree with that.
Yes, it is very true. Now it's the section. Well, you said you had like 8 or 9 points already that you have. What have we not covered in that yet? So we're
Yeah,
about
I've only
halfway.
covered two of them so far.
Because we're about the 15-minute mark. So
Yeah. Well, we can keep going.
yeah,
Another thing that I really appreciated about the article as well is uh, you getting feedback.
no, I started to lean back. Then I realized I'm on video. You only
Oh,
see the top of my head. I look like
okay.
Kilroy.
Yeah. So he says open social stack includes data infrastructure, which he says is decentralized storage, the data layer, etc. Middleware, which he's calling digital identity, social graph, credentialing protocols, that kind of thing, and social applications. I think a lot of people really don't fully appreciate how technology can be used to facilitate or destroy individual freedoms. And so, if you look at Web 2, the platform users expect the platform to police misinformation for them.
Hmm.
But if they disagree with how that's done, then what they want to do is they want to leave that platform and go to another one. And
Yep.
we've seen that happen, on multiple occasions. But in Web3, the tech stack isn't used to police the information. It's used to assist the individual in policing their own information and provide them with personal sovereignty.
Yep. That's one thing that people they don't seem to understand. They want the platform to walk both sides of the fence, but
Right.
but they don't. They want to be able to control what's on the platform, and it doesn't make sense to me, at least. Because
Yes. And the platform wants to walk both sides of the fence. And
yeah.
so what we have here is you go to Facebook and you see people arguing, let's say politics. You got the liberals and then you got the conservatives. You got the ultra liberals, you got the ultra conservatives, and they're arguing over who's right and who's wrong. Well, one side wants wants the platform to censor the other side.
Hmm.
And then the other side wants the platform to censor, the other side. So the right wants the left to be censored, the left wants the right to be censored. But really, is it the platform's job to censor either side?
Hmm.
And that's my issue with Web 2 is a lot of times the platforms are not even-handed in how they deal with these situations and the information and whether or not a person should be shadow banned or banned completely or they issue a public notice saying that this information is incorrect or whatever. They don't do that even-handedly. So ultimately,
Yeah.
they have to choose sides.
Yeah, it's the old platform versus publisher uh, argument.
Right,
Publisher
right.
can control what is being said or seen, and a platform can't. So
Right. And the
one
platforms
sticks one hand.
they want protection. They want legal protection as platforms,
Hmm.
which would by legal definition qualify them to be neutral. But they want the power of a publisher to be able to decide what should and should not be published, and what is information, what is misinformation. So you can't have it both ways, but they want it
Exactly.
both ways.
Yep. It's like they lick their fingers, stick it in the wind, see which way it's blowing that day.
Yeah.
That's the side they go with.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's why you have guys like Jack Dorsey, who former CEO of Twitter, can
Sorry.
ban Donald Trump from his platform, and then turn around and say, "Well, I don't think I should have the power to ban anybody from my platform." But you
Yep.
exercise that power. You
Yep.
exercise the power, and then you say you don't think you should have the power. Well, then why did you exercise it?
And then and
That's
then
the
he
question.
goes on Twitter and start talking about he's gonna make this crypto social platform, and is going to do this, and it's everything Hive is. It's like, why don't you just
Right.
integrate Hive into it? It's already
Yeah.
built.
Well, yeah, and I'd say the same thing about Elon Musk.
Mm,
He wanted to buy Twitter and turn it into this free speech haven, but well, you already have a platform that does that.
yep.
If that's the kind of platform you're looking for, why don't you just go join Hive?
Yeah. Just just like integrated. I know they call me Dan. Is always in Starkers too. Is constantly talking about just work Hive into what you've got there already on Web 2, and you could turn it into
Right.
Web 3. It's, I guess it's not hard.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm not
And
a
it's
developer, so I don't know how hard it is. But
well, and I'm not either, but and it doesn't even have to be Hive. It can be another protocol.
oh yeah,
Any protocol will do. I mean, you can incorporate Bitcoin, you can incorporate, Ethereum, create a DApp that serves as a bridge between Ethereum and your Web2 property. There's another protocol in development now called Lens Protocol. You can use any protocol, and I argue in my book and my Web3 social book that actually is coming out later this year. I make this argument very strongly that the future belongs to protocols, not platforms. And
yep,
I do see a future where these Web2 social platforms will adopt protocols, and they'll be transformed into Web3 social platforms.
yeah.
I think I think that's going to happen.
There's a couple of them. I know one is ceramic. There's several of them now that can take several others and mix them all into one, so that you only have that one that you got to use to you can log into everything with. For
Right.
the
Yeah. Yeah. And there's
it's a
nothing
no
that says you
brainer,
can't. There's nothing that says you can't use multiple protocols. I
right?
mean, a protocol is a protocol, and what it is it's a tool that anyone can use. Nobody owns it. And so, if you think
Mm-hmm.
about the infrastructure of the internet, HTTP is a protocol. Nobody owns it. Anybody can use it. And everybody actually does use it as soon as they log on to the internet. You pull up
Mm-hmm.
your browser, it shows you a website. You're using a protocol. And the powerful thing about that is nobody can stop you from using it.
Right.
You know, so if your browser, for instance, blocks a certain protocol, you can use another browser, one that doesn't block that protocol.
Or somebody could, or the protocol could have its own browser made for
Right.
it.
Or create
that's
or
that's
create a DApp that gets around the that browser blocking your the protocol. You
right.
can create an application that allows you to get around it. So that's what the web is. The original intention of the web was for, to allow individual freedom so that everybody can use it. It was decentralized.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody owned it. Nobody controlled it, and that's what Web3 wants to take us back to.
Yep. And that's how, God, I can't wait for that. It's here now. It's just we got to get it out there so people can actually use it and know about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I'm
what's
actually looking forward to Lens coming out. I've been checking it out, and I really like what I see with Lens, and I'm
that
totally looking forward to that.
sounds familiar. I can't remember if I've seen
Yeah,
that or been on it yet, or
yeah.
is it?
Well,
It's in beta or
Fundamental
something like that,
Labs,
ain't it?
yeah, it's in beta right now. So the only way you can get access to it is if you signed their whatever agreement a
I
while
did.
back, and
That's the one that
yeah,
I was talking to you about in the
yeah,
chat. That's the one.
yeah,
You sent me the
yeah.
invite.
Yeah, so since I didn't sign the agreement, I can't get an account until they roll it out publicly. So once they roll it out publicly, then you can claim your identity and then use what they call the social graph, and the social graph is portable. You take it with you, so you don't. It's not like on Facebook and Twitter where you go up and you sign up and you have a username, and that username is unique only to that platform. And if so, you can go to another platform and try to get that username. But if someone else already has it, then you're SOL.
Right.
You have to come up with a different username. With the social graph that Lens is creating, once you claim an identity, that identity goes with you wherever you go. And I think that's
That
going to be awesome.
that's very cool. That's exactly what needs to be done. Oh, he does talk
So
about ceramic network in this article.
he does. Yeah, he talks about that. He talks about CyberConnect. He talks about Lens. He talks about a lot of these different up and coming platforms and protocols that really look very interesting to me.
I think you're right. This is going to be a multi-episode subject.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we can talk about this in another. Here's another thing that I really appreciate about a summary. We're just in the summary right now, folks. Hang
We
on for
have
the next 24 hours because we're going to come up with some really cool stuff. What he what he says in one of his points, he says the challenges that Web3 account and identity face are because the definition of wallet, account, and identity in Web3 are not clearly defined, and the implementation of dental identity projects often mix those three concepts. And I completely agree with that. And what I do is you take MetaMask, for instance. MetaMask is a wallet. Okay, it's a browser wallet, but you can create multiple accounts in that wallet.
Yep.
You can have like 100 different accounts, and every account can have a different identity. So maybe for this platform over here, I want to go as Alan Taylor. That's my identity. Maybe another platform, I create a different account in MetaMask that I interact with as cryptocracy. And then maybe a third identity I might have is tailored content, my business, my freelance writing business. So I can have multiple identities and I can have different accounts within MetaMask for each one of those identities. So I
Nice.
have one wallet, multiple identities, and each identity can have multiple accounts. And that's the power of Web3.
I was going to say similar to like I've got, Keychain and Hive Signer, and I've got the Uncle Bonehead, Defluenced,
Yep.
and Intro Radio, the Loud and Proud Community. I've got like 4 or 5, Hive identities now.
Yeah,
But
and that's allowable. That's allowable. And that's a good point too on Hive. You can have multiple accounts and multiple identities, but on Hive, your accounts are tied to your identity. So once you
mhm.
create an account, I mean that basically is your identity. And you can have multiple. You can have 5 different accounts. You can have 7 different accounts, 8 different accounts. So that's a step up from Web 2. But I think where Web 3 is heading is to make that even more powerful by allowing you to have multiple wallets, each wallet having the ability to manage multiple accounts, and within that having different identities attached to each of those accounts.
Mhm.
So it's much more flexible. With Web3, you got to think three-dimensionally. Who am I going to interact with? Who am I going to interact with people as today? Like who am I going to be today? Am I going to be Alan Taylor, the freelance writer, or am I going to be Alan Taylor, the published poet and fiction writer, or am I going to be tailored content, the freelance writer LLC, interacting as my business, so I can have different identities, and that's I think that's a really powerful thing.
So, how many points did you get through?
Oh, that's 5.
That's
That's 0.5.
that's 0.5, and you've got what 4 more?
Yeah, I mean, we
Well,
can, if we're on time, if we're
and that's
close on
just on
time, we
the
can, yeah.
that's just on the summary, right?
It's just on the summary in the first part of the actual, where he defines Web3 part. So yeah, I got into that a little bit. Yeah.
I
Where are we at on time?
we've got like maybe 5-10 minutes
Okay. All
to
right.
reach half an hour. The we weren't kidding at the beginning, people. There's a lot to unpack in this article. this is
Yeah,
insane.
and the summary is just really a summary of the whole article. So
Hmm.
so the talking points that we're discussing here in the summary, he goes into a lot more detail on those in the article. So we're just touching really scratching the surface on the depth of this article by just pulling out certain points in the summary.
Yeah, and to be honest, the title is "With an Identity Crisis." it's,
Yeah.
and he hasn't even
Yeah.
touched on the identity crisis yet.
Yeah, no, he's just talking about really he's laying the groundwork actually for what that identity crisis is, but he hints at that when he discusses the tech stack and what we want to call Web3 and how we
Hmm.
define Web3 and what Web3 can actually do. Being decentralized and whether or not you have multiple accounts and multiple identities, all of that plays into what he's calling the identity crisis. And I think the bottom line is, well, how do you define it? How
Hmm.
do you define Web3 and what can Web3 do?
Yeah, there's I follow a lot of Linux people online because I'm into Linux, and I've never understood why they're not big. Some of them are huge fans of crypto. Well, others just absolutely hate it with a passion. And I've never understood the ones that don't like it because number one, it's open source. It's what you stand for, your beliefs, and with Linux. And
Right?
and then the other point is it's new technology that allows people to earn money and make money. Why do they not like it? And I think it's because of the quick buck scammers that come along and
Yeah.
you hit the next best thing. I liken it to the old internet marketer type thing where they just they'll you know pay somebody in India $2 a word or 30 cents a word to
Yeah. Or 5 cents a word. Yeah.
yeah to write a 300-page article and then fill it with a bunch of affiliate links and expect people
Right.
to I think it's because of those kinds of people that
Yeah.
come along.
Any new technology is going to have its scam artists and people that use it or misuse it and abuse it. I understand people don't like the scams and all, and the schemers and all of that. I don't like them either. But if you analyze the technology and what it's for, I think you're right. With the Linux folks, you would think they would be the ones that are on board with the open source technology part of this.
Hmm.
What I've found is typically whenever young idealists grow up, a lot of times what they find themselves doing is defending the status quo. So Linux is now the status quo. At one time, Linux was like the next new thing. It was the
Hmm.
next big thing in open source, programming, and a lot of people were excited about that. Well, now those people, well, they're old men and women, and so and Linux is a big deal. It's now proven itself, and so they don't want anything else. They want to defend their territory.
Yep.
And
The
I think that's
neckbeards.
what, I think that's what is going on there. And it happens in everything. WordPress people, you know,
WordPress is the
WordPress is the
biggest
open
open
source.
source. Yep.
It's the open source standard of the internet. More websites are powered by WordPress than anything else. And these people that grew up with it, like I did, I was like one of the first users of WordPress back in the day. A lot of them are just opposed to anything new. they want to stick with WordPress. Well, things change, and if you don't change with it, you find yourself an old relic.
Yep. Ain't that the truth? I mean, just look at.
Yeah.
Well,
we need these little bubbles, point to, funk. Yeah. Old relic. Funk. Like the old Batman relic, bam, pow.
Oh, wow.
Relic.
You're going to make me start finding some more things to edit with. Quit making my job harder. No, this is probably one of the easiest podcasts I've done. So, because we're doing it so far, we're doing it just right, with the production, and all I got to do is chop off the beginning and the end and throw on the intro, outro, and call it good. Anyways,
there you go.
We are at the 30-minute mark. So I've got 45 minutes of recording to edit. So,
awesome. You got a lot to chop out there, though.
Yeah.
A lot of goofball stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly me.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, right. I enjoyed this. I think the next time we can go into some of the talking points, the deeper point of the article itself.
Right.
And so I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. You guys know where to find us. You can find us, email us at podcast@defluence.online. My lips are breaking up. You can find us at defluence.online. Subscribe to the podcast wherever free podcasts are sold. Google, Apple, Spotify, Anchor.
Yeah, Twitch. Stitcher.
Twitch is only for live, but
Stitcher. Yeah. Don't forget Stitcher. Amazon Stitcher. Music and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I think that's all. Did I hit all?
I don't know.
We're on Hive.
I helped you out. Ecency, yeah, we're on Hive and Ecency, and look us up.
Just look in the show notes.
Look in the show notes. Yeah. Google Defluence.
Yep, defluence.online/subscribe. There you go. We'll catch you guys again next time. Be good. Be safe. Never stick your finger where you wouldn't stick your face.
Ciao, baby. Ciao.
Ciao, baby. Ciao.